Okay, so in Orange County, Florida, we've got a ballot measure called the Rent Stabilization Ordinance. And it says, shall the Orange County Rent Stabilization Ordinance, which limits rent increases for a certain residential rental units in multifamily structures to the average annual increase in the consumer price index, and requires the county to create a process for landlords to request an exemption to the limitation on the rent increase based on an opportunity to receive a fair and reasonable return on investment, be approved for a period of 1 year. So basically what that comes down to is if you own a multifamily structure, multiple units, you can't raise your rents more than one time in a year, and that rental increase has to be tacked to the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. So if you're renting out like a single family home, this doesn't apply. It's only for those places that are like, the big structures or multi-unit structures, of which there are a lot of even little ones here in Orange County all over the place. Now, I'm not a huge fan of rent stabilization. I'd rather see them pull back on some of the limitations on creating multifamily structures that are in the building code. Keep the quality of the built structure, but don't require so many single family home structures being built. In fact, I'd rather see a requirement for multifamily structures being built, but this is only for a year, so I think we're for it. And I'm for it for two reasons. One, Orange County has grown by almost 50% in just the last decade. Like, we went from a little over 1 million people to over 1.5 million people just in Orange County in the last 10 years. Rents in Orange County have gone up 25% just in the last year. And some apartment owners have asked for rent increases multiple times in the last year. So people who could afford the rent when they signed the lease at the beginning were asked 3 months later you have to up the rent. And then 3 months later, you got to up the rent again for really no discernible reason other than the market said, hey, we can get more for this apartment. They're still making just as much. They're making more than they were before on renting out those apartments, and they're just jacking up their profits because they can. So for this instance, because you can't build multifamily units in just a year, I say yes. We vote yes on this. Let's stabilize the rent a little bit. I know it's going to cause a crunch in the housing market here already. That's happening anyway. At least this will help some of the people who can't afford to buy to not have to pay mortgage rates for a rent. So if you're in Orange County, Florida, vote yes on rent stabilization ordinance. It does offer options for landlords, so I think overall it's a pretty fair ordinance to put into place.